What's up, my friends? Welcome back. Episode 64. How are you doing? I hope you are having a great day. It's beautiful here. It's Sunday of Thanksgiving week for me, and the holidays are definitely in the air. I can feel it. It's a little bit crisper out and just getting ready for Thanksgiving. And with it, of course, the stress of the season is in the air too. So originally, I have to tell you guys, this episode was going to be called 3 Tips to Manage Stress Leading Up to the Holidays. However, after meeting with some friends this week, actually a few days ago, and hearing kind of what they're wrestling through with the holiday funk, I decided to keep it really simple, cut out the other 2 tips, and just give 1 tip. A really important subject, and I didn't want the other 2 tips to distract. So I decided to create 1 episode around this whole concept and subject. I know that there's enough pressures and to-dos in this season, so this episode is really simple, and I hope it encourages you. And honestly, it's 1 tip that you can put in your pocket and pull from any other season too, not just around the holidays. So I'm not sure when you're going to listen to this episode, but if it's like May or June or July, I wouldn't skip this episode. It really has nothing to do with the holidays at all, but this 1 tip I believe can really empower us and help us when things come up in our life. And for me, traditionally, the holidays are a really hard time. So this is going to be when I'm kind of going to double down and practice as many tips and tricks and hacks and prayers and all of that to pull on so that I can really focus on this season and have a good season. And I want you to have a great season as well. So I hope this episode encourages you. Welcome to a Holy Mess podcast. All right, my friends, we all know life can be so difficult and painful at times, especially when we're carrying grief or loss or wrestling with shame about our past, anxiety about our future, or frankly, like we are just not enough. But there has to be so much more for us. There is hope and joy, peace, love, fun, purpose, and a reason that you, my friend, are on this planet. Let's partner with God so you can be who He created you to be as you wrestle through and trudge through your mess. Hi, I'm Dani, a recovering alcoholic, a mom, a wife, a mentor, and dust. We are only here for a moment. Let's live like it. I'm just like you. I'm a holy mess most days. Actually, every day. Let's have some fun and laugh while trudging through our mess. This stuff doesn't need to be dry and boring. Let's dig in. All right, my friends. So in this episode, we are going to explore and we're going to focus on the concept and the power of being validated and the power of acknowledgement. I actually believe that being validated and acknowledged in our experience can be one of the absolute secret sauces to an amazing life. So we are going to dive in a minute, but I wanted to kind of take a 30,000 foot view a little bit, and I wanted to back out and I wanted to say, I want us to look at validating or acknowledging our experience or our struggle like the pressure release valve. Like you literally have the valve in your hand of everything going on in your life and all the pressure, and by acknowledging it and validating it, it's like you're letting a little bit of the steam out. And we're going to dive into more about it. But I have found that the holiday season can be absolutely one of the most stressful seasons for some of us. And with whatever we're struggling with during the holiday season, it tends to become this huge giant, like a giant hurdle around the holidays. Now, if you're like, Dani, what are you talking about? The holidays are absolutely magical. Man, congratulations. And I'm really jealous of you. So don't send me your emails and tell me how amazing the holidays are. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy for you. That's amazing. But the holidays tend to be a very difficult time for me for many, many reasons. But the concept that I want to share, I believe can still help you, and not just around the holidays. This is one of those concepts that I think is not talked about enough, but I think it is super, super powerful, and it's really, really easy to do. So we're going to dive into how we validate and that sort of thing in the episode. But something that I've observed in my own life and in others' life who I work with is when we try to minimize our feelings, or when we try to minimize our experience or what we're going through or what we've been through or how someone's affecting us or irritating us, it really only makes us more upset, and the struggle becomes more intense because we're minimizing it. We're trying to minimize it. I have found that once feelings are validated, then we can actually figure out how much something should or shouldn't bother or affect us. But when we continue to invalidate them, it gives them more power. And we're going to explore that a little bit more. But, prior to validating or acknowledging our struggle, we either give it too much power or too much space in our minds and in our hearts, or we pick on ourselves for the struggle. And picking on ourselves gets us nowhere quickly, except way more frustrated, okay? Now, here's how we minimize our experience. And Christians especially are really good at minimizing their experience. So I don't want to brag, but we kind of have a corner on the market of saying things like, shouldn't I be over this by now? Or this shouldn't bother me so much. Or Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected, so this shouldn't bother me at all, right? It just blows my mind how much we almost put shame on ourselves, or we invalidate our experience or our feelings with some of these phrases, right? And I still do it too. I'll think, what is wrong with me? I'm a Christian. I shouldn't feel this way. Or I've done all this emotional and spiritual work and on myself, and I've done all this inner healing. Why is it still bothering me? And what I'm doing there, and what I see people do, is we invalidate our experience, and it just makes us more frustrated, and it does not help us walk from a place of compassion or love or grace or anything like that. So, maybe you could just be wrestling with some anger or frustration or sadness or grief. And if we just allowed ourselves to process it, and sometimes it's just acknowledging it, maybe that will help us actually feel better. And you guys, I love this whole concept of acknowledgement and validating, because I've seen the power of it in my own life. And I've seen when I've been thinking about something obsessively, and then I get it out of me and I just kind of share it, or I just, validate it within myself. Like, wow, Dani, that really must be frustrating to you. When I just validate it, it really does release some of that pent up energy behind it. King David says, I will be glad and rejoice in your love, for you saw my affliction and you knew the anguish of my soul. I believe right here, King David is explaining so eloquently the fundamental need for us as humans to be validated. Number one, we need to absolutely know that God validates us with what we're walking through. He sees your pain more than anyone. He sees the full scope of things more than you even see. I mean, sometimes we're so affected by life, we can't see the forest through the trees, but Jesus sees the whole forest, and he affirms and validates what you are going through and what you're feeling. I think the second thing it's really important is for us to validate our own feelings. Sometimes when we're walking through seasons, we minimize things, or we minimize the way things are affecting us. And it's okay to do that, I think, with other people, because we don't need to explain ourselves to the whole world. But we have to validate ourselves. You have to look yourself in the mirror and you have to say, man, this is hard, but look at you. You're getting up, you're doing work, you're running your business, you're showing up for your kids, you're showing up at the PTA, you're volunteering at church. Validate yourself, look yourself in the eye and say, this is hard. I mean, if you want perspective on your life, pause for a moment, and I want you to think about your life. And let's pretend it's not your life. Let's pretend it's your dearest friend's life, and they are telling you some of the hard things they're walking through, some of the things they're fearful about, some of the things they're regretful about, like all of these things. I bet you $1 gazillion, and I don't have $1 gazillion, but I would bet my house on it, that you would have such compassion and care for them, that you would have such empathy for them, and you'd be like, man, you're being way too hard on yourself. Like, there's a lot of hard things in your life. I just sat with a woman this week. If you have little kids in the car, maybe pause it. I just was sitting there with her, and she was telling me about how life is just coming at her in every direction. And it's no fault of her own. It's just literally things have happened. Things have happened with her kids and just in external situations that she doesn't control. And it's like a shitstorm right now in her life. And literally all I did, you guys, was sit there and validate her, allow her to have her process, and allow her to share her truth. She texted, thank you. Oh my gosh, that was so helpful. I kid you not, you guys, I said barely anything. I mean, I prayed for her. I hugged her. I validated her. I didn't have any great wisdom. There's nothing I could say to help her fix the situation that are going around her. I mean, she's got some grief she's going on. There's just a bunch of different things. And all I did was validate her. And what I want to say is, you guys, we have to validate ourselves, because there's not always going to be that friend or that person or that life coach or that pastor that is going to be able to sit with us where sometimes we can't even share it all. We don't even know how to share it all. But you guys, we have got to be able to validate ourselves. Otherwise, we're just piling on the shame. We're piling on the regret. We're piling it on. And then we make decisions out of that piled on of crap place, right? Of course, you're going to react in anger over little things. Of course, you're going to make, mountains out of molehills because you've got so much going on inside of you. And the importance of being validated. And I want to tell you this in a little story that happened to me yesterday. So back in August, Gary and I, we sold my Jeep. If you don't know, I had a red Jeep. It was my midlife crisis. It was amazing few years with the top off and just awesome red Jeep. The kids hated it because it ran rough. It didn't really run rough. It wasn't luxury, okay? But I loved it. It was amazing. So we sold the Jeep. We bought a minivan. We bought I love it. It's a Toyota Sienna, whatever. This is not an ad for Sienna, but it's hybrid. It gets like a gazillion miles to the gallon. It's wonderful. So we bought it in August. We drove it off the lot. Literally, I drive it off the lot. I'm on the freeway for 10 minutes and there's this rattle in the back seat. So I call the Toyota dealer right away. The sales guy goes, let me get you in touch with parts. Oh my gosh, and service. So I talk to the service guy. He's like, bring it back in. We'll get it fixed right away. Make the appointment 4 days later. They have it, yada, yada. Okay. So since that moment, it's been crickets from the Toyota dealer. And I'm not bagging on Toyota. I know there's a supply chain issue. I know there's a lot of issues going on, but I've reached out a bunch of times. And this week I was like, oh my gosh, we're now into November and they have not gotten back to me. So long story short, I got a hold of a great gentleman at Toyota. I told him the story. I was super chill, but I was just like, I'm kind of frustrated. And he goes, oh my gosh, I'd be frustrated too. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry it's taken this long. We're going to get this fixed. Let me make a phone call. Let me go talk to this other gentleman and I will call you right back within an hour. I'm like, okay, great. I literally hung up from that phone call and felt so much better. Now, had my card been fixed? No, not at all. Had I even really talked to the guy who can fix it or can make the appointment for it? No, not at all. But this guy, Ramiro, was incredible at validating me. He acknowledged what I went through. He acknowledged the issue. He acknowledged how frustrating that must be. And you guys, I kid you not, I don't even care. I don't even think I hear the rattle in the back seat anymore. Yes, we're still taking it in. The appointment's on Monday. They did call and follow up and all of that. But my point is, once I was validated, the lividness went away. The frustration and the constant nagging in my head and my mind about it went away. Like now that I feel validated and not crazy, and just that someone acknowledged that was hard, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Now, I'm sure they're going to fix my van and I'll be much happier. But my point is, you guys, we're not always going to have those Ramiros in our life. We're not always going to have those people that can sit with us for a couple hours as we process through the things in our lives. And frankly, some of us think the hard things in our life are so mundane. Like, who's going to sit and listen to me? I'm sure there's people in your life. You're an incredible human being. God would never have intended for you to walk this path alone. I promise you. And, sometimes we sabotage ourselves to even share the things going on in our life because we minimize them so much. But yet, as we minimize them, we're invalidating our experience. And by invalidating our experience, it just flares up more within us. Because let me tell you, you in your head might invalidate it, but your emotions know the truth. Your emotions know how hard this is. This is why you're fending off anxiety. This is why you've got some fear. This is why you've got maybe some depression at times. This is why, all of those secret things that we struggle with. Part of it is just we're not validating ourselves. Like, you guys, we need to know, number one, God validates us. God validates. God sees everything going on in your life. And he adores you and he loves you and he wants to walk you through it. But also, you guys, we have to validate ourselves. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and go, oh my gosh, this is frustrating. Or if you're like, why is this such a big deal to you? Ask yourself, why is this such a big deal? I don't think this should be such a big deal. What is going on? Like, literally have a conversation with yourself. Your soul knows. Your spirit knows. Your mind knows. Your body knows. Ask yourself, look in the mirror and be like, Dani, this is like not that big a deal. It seems like you're making a mountain out of a molehill. What is going on? I promise you something will come up and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's because of this, this, and this. And then you'll find more compassion. And honestly, then the issue that you were so upset about, you'll have more peace in that. That doesn't mean that the situation's fixed. It doesn't mean that anything has changed, but just by validating it, it helps us pull a little air out of the balloon that's just exploding so we can actually have some clarity with how to deal with it and how to move forward. That's what I wanted to encourage you guys with. So you guys, this week when you are triggered or when something's affecting you or upsetting you, instead of beating yourself up or minimizing it, take a second, validate how you're feeling, acknowledge how you're feeling. If you need to, bring it into the light, say a prayer, and then see what you have to do to deal with it. Sometimes we don't have clarity with what to even do or deal with something until we acknowledge that it's there and that it's bothering us. So all that to say, we're coming into kind of a stressful time of year. I just want you to know I am with you. I'm for you. I'm praying for you. Let me say a little prayer for you right now, and we'll be in touch in a couple of days. So Lord, I thank you for my friend. Lord, I thank you for who you've created them to be. Lord, with the holidays in mind, Father, I know that this can carry a time of grief or frustration or just busyness in general. And so, Lord, I pray for my friend. I pray that they would know how much you love them, how much you adore them, and how much you are with them. So bless them, Lord, today. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. Hello, my friend. If this episode blessed you, made you laugh, or triggered you, hey, that's growth. Please do me a favor and share this with a friend. And if you feel led, please leave a written review for the show. That really helps us out. Don't forget you are in good company if you're feeling more broken than you'd like to admit. And you are more loved than you can ever imagine. Have a great week. See you next time.